Welcome, everyone. I'd like to introduce our two speakers. Here with me today is Roberto Jusino, Head of Customer Engagement at BIM 360 at Autodesk. We also have Guy Nirpaz, CEO of Totango. The two of them are going to discuss the customer success complexities at the enterprise, with Roberto specifically sharing how his organization doubled product adoption. Roberto is going to start the presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to him now. Roberto?
Hello, everyone. Good to meet you all. My name is Roberto Jusino. I'm Head of Customer Engagement for Autodesk BIM 360. I wanted to kind of take you through today a little bit of an overview about Autodesk BIM 360, complexities that we face kind of living in an enterprise environment, how we went ahead and deployed a customer success lifecycle management system to help with those complexities, and then talk a little bit more about results. So going through BIM 360, BIM 360 is a collaborative cloud solution for the construction industry. It enables our customers to have all the right data that they need at their fingertips across all locations, across all teams, across all environments. This essentially helps our customers build better buildings, right? Improve quality, increase efficiencies, and reduce costs, which is really, really, really exciting. I joined this business about 2 years ago. Previous to this, I was actually part of a customer success management platform company. So I have a lot of experience working with a lot of different enterprises and deploying customer success platforms. What I actually wanted to take you through next is a few of the complexities that we started to face about 2 years ago when we were building out the customer engagement or customer success team. And then talk to you a little bit through what we did and how we went ahead to kind of manage all those complexities. So kind of first and foremost, one of the biggest complexities that we tend to see in an enterprise model that we saw is there was a lot of complex relationships across a lot of stakeholders, right? So Autodesk, we actually have over 160 products, so customers can subscribe to many, 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 many different products, and they have a lot of different relationships across a lot of different product groups. Because of that, you can imagine we have varying support levels and support teams based on customer types and based on what they're purchasing, which makes the interactions very, very interesting, right? Secondly to that, we have kind of this really interesting thing that happens, right, in kind of large enterprises that we sell by portfolio at many times, right? So we sell bundles of products. And in many cases, products are sold and bought across multiple teams. And notice I kind of bolded out sold and bought, because those are kind of two very different concepts. Sold, what we consider sold is a product that's within a bundle that the customer knows about the product, but they haven't necessarily committed to adopt that product, right? And bought is that they've actually committed to adopt that product and they committed to use that product, right? Secondly, what gets really interesting is the perceived value versus the realized value was undefined across our customers. So we didn't really have a good understanding across those 4 products that I showed you previously, how our customers were interacting with each other, how they were interacting with the product, and what value they were getting, right? We were taking more of an account management approach versus a customer success approach. When it came to adoption, as you can imagine, we have contracts range from $2,000 all the way to the millions of dollars. And what that causes is implementations that vary dramatically across customer segments. So for some of our customers, they may have 5 or 6 teams that they're working with at Autodesk to implement, but some of our customers may only have just 1 support person that they interact with, right? And that kind of leads us to kind of understanding or looking through that there's actually varying levels of workflow and product adoption across teams. And again, 2 words that I've bolded there are workflow and product adoption because we consider those to be really different. Product adoption we consider to be more the picks and clicks. So what are people actually doing on the product? Workflow is really about what are people actually doing on the field, in the office, how are they actually employing processes and changing their behaviors based on our product. And that's what we really feel is really, really key in understanding the value that we're delivering to our customers, is understanding that workflow that we're enabling, right? Thirdly, we have process, right? So we kind of 2 years ago, we had a lack of customer segmentation. Really, we had the most basic standard account management customer segmentation, right, which is small, medium, and large. We had really no definition of customer health other than likely to renew or not renew, right? And because of this, we didn't have teams working on success plays. We really had more of a traditional account management approach where people would go ahead and talk to customers 6 months to 3 months beforehand and try and derive some value, and hopefully they would renew, right? And another interesting part of this was their success metrics were based on internal activities versus the customer value. And I think this is a really important one to kind of talk through, right? What we were seeing was, or what I was seeing was that people were saying, hey, I'm being successful because I've completed a QBR, or I've been successful because I've talked to this person for 4 or 5 times. And I don't understand why they renewed because we have a great relationship. And that was very different than really understanding the value that those customers are getting, right? Very, very dramatically different. Another place where I find to be kind of central and extremely important is data and technology. And notice that I've kind of highlighted that in blue for that specific reason. If you can kind of think about in this really complex environment at Autodesk with over 160 products, and specifically in Autodesk BIM 360 with over 4 products, our usage data for our products is actually across a lot of disparate systems. And that's because in some instances, our products are built across separate code bases. We also, as kind of I mentioned before, we have very complex contract structures where an account could be buying for a subsidiary, or a subsidiary could be buying on behalf of another entity, right? Or for that matter, teams could be purchasing, right? We also have this complexity that we're going to talk about, that Guy's going to talk about today a little bit more, which is kind of about hierarchies, right? Having these different parent-child hierarchies, and where do we link the data, right? And those are all big issues that we were seeing when we first started on this endeavor in Autodesk BIM 360. At that time, we also didn't have a technology stack that was integrated to support customer success, and that was kind of really key and something that we've been focusing on dramatically, right? So a little bit about, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the data, specifically about the hierarchies, and I think this will resonate to a lot of people in enterprise, but I think it resonates to a lot of people in general in customer success to understand the interaction. So I've taken a very simplified view of these interactions, right? But what we're seeing here is that in many cases, in kind of a first instance, an overall account can buy the product, right? And they can be buying the product on behalf of a subsidiary. They can be buying the product on behalf of a region. They can be buying the product simply on behalf of a project. But we also have the circumstance where these projects can be buying individually for themselves, right? Or they can be buying on behalf of another subsidiary or a trade contractor for that matter. And we also have the added complication then that we have individual users that can also buy our product, or teams of users that can also buy our product. And they can buy it as part of a package within a project, or they can buy it across several different projects as we're seeing here. So that leads to an incredible amount of complexity in the way that we manage our customer base, and an incredible amount of complexity in the way that we manage our data. And that kind of leads to an interesting question of, well, how best do we actually go ahead and drive interactions across the customer base? Do we do it at the account level? Do we do it at the project level? Do we do it at the user team level? Or do we do it across all these different levels and add a bunch of different people to do a bunch of different things, right? So what I want to take you through is the process now next of some of the work that I've done in the past and that we spent kind of 2 years here at BIM 360 is helping build out or working on building out a customer success lifecycle system to help manage all of these complexities, right? So kind of flipping over to that here, I kind of look at this in kind of 5 unique steps. And us as leaders in customer success are given a really hard job, right? We're told you got to retain customers, you got to increase value, you got to cross-sell, you got to upsell, and you got to drive adoption. And by the way, you have to do all of that right now, right? And our CXOs and our GMs are really excited to have us come on board, but they don't really understand the complexities that we all face. So as heads of customer success, we say, great, well, let's go ahead and start fighting these fires. Let's take out the fire hydrant. Let's bring the fire truck and start fighting all these fires very quickly. And what I recommend to do is sometimes is kind of sit back and look holistically across your customer base and holistically across your data to understand where our customers are getting value, right? So the first and foremost piece that I recommend doing, and I'll show you kind of in the next slide how we did this, right, a little bit, is mapping the customer journey, right? So understanding how customers are getting value out of your product. And it's not only how customers are clicking through your product. It's like I mentioned before, how are they actually interacting on the ground, on the floor, in the office, with their team members, and what are they actually doing that drives value to them as a business and as a unit and as a user. And then taking this value and mapping it back to how customers are utilizing their products. Second part is the segmentation. Now that we kind of understand here a little bit about the value that's being derived from our customers and where and how, we can start to now segment our customers. And typically a lot of companies will segment their customers based on small, medium, large. But there's a lot of other ways to go ahead and do this, right? Part of this is you can go ahead and do this by subscription type. You can do this by industry. You can do this by opportunity, whether it's an upsell, a cross-sell, or a retention risk for that matter. Once we've kind of gone ahead and create these segments, it's really, really, really important to establish these success metrics, right? So what are the success metrics of these segments, and how are we going to show that they're deriving value? And this is quite key in understanding this, because this is the way that we'll be able to measure back in real time how our customers are being successful versus at the end of it. So if we think about it, a lot of us will tend to say, hey, success metric is the customer has adopted or the customer has renewed. And that tends to be after the fact. What we really want to start to think about here is, well, the customer is utilizing the following workflows in comparison to similar customers like them, or their users are acting a certain way. Things like this that show the more dynamic nature of adoption and the dynamic nature of success. Fourthly, from here, we can start to now then prioritize our teams to very specific segments and create these success plays, right? So in some cases, like I just mentioned before, that means that you're going to have a team that's just going to be focused on one-to-one interactions. They're going out making calls to a specific set of customers. Or you may also have a team, or plus also have a team of people that do one-to-many engagements that are focused on in-product messaging, email marketing, and training campaigns and webinars, right? And once we've kind of done this, this is where we start to then close the loop, right? We launch these success plays and we track and manage them through. I want to say this is not an overnight process. It's not an easy process. We have struggled with this process and making it happen, right? And it's taken us 2 years, and we still have a lot more work to do. And I want to actually take you through that, right? And this is kind of a very simplistic view, but I'll go ahead and elaborate a little bit more on this. So when we were mapping our customer journey, we thought we could really easily do it by understanding how accounts are interacting with our product. And that actually worked initially, right? It actually showed us, hey, yeah, we have a general strategy, and we're going to go target those accounts. We're going to go target those accounts and think through that, right? But what we were able to quickly find out is later on is that our customer value wasn't really tied to the account. It was more tied to the user persona, right? And what we did was we actually started to send people out onto the field, as our CSM should be doing every week, every month, but sitting down and talking to those users and starting to understand that there was actually different user personas that applied to different workflows. And understanding those workflows, we were able to create a better customer journey map. Then from there, what we were able to do is say, hey, Health scoring, initially we were doing the health scoring based on the kind of account metric or account health, right? But we ended up kind of having this new realization that was really based on workflows and customer personas. So what we started to do is kind of build out segmentation that took into account those personas. So are they a superintendent in our case? Are they a project engineer? Are they a type of document controller or manager? And being able to understand those segments and also look at the types of projects or subsidiaries, the type of work that they were doing. So in our case, are they building a hospital? Are they building a road? Whatever that may be, and the size of that project. Once we were able to create that segmentation, we were able to then start to build out these customer value success metrics, right? The most important one that we find is our workflow score. And our workflow score actually is kind of multi-layered. It starts at the user level, and it's looking at how specific personas are interacting with workflows and how successful they are. And then it's looking at how those workflows are being enabled by that project within a specific product. And then it's rolling up all the way to the account. So we have this multi-level success metric that we're that we're deriving, and we're pushing a very dynamic metric. We also have two other metrics, which are our project scores that look at our users per project and our interactions per project, and also our account score that looks at our projects per account and different interactions across different products. So what we then did there was start to align our customers to our teams, and I kind of just mentioned this before. We built out a one-to-one team, and we actually ended up segmenting them by, funny enough, small, medium, large, because that's the best way that it worked for us. But we also created SWAT teams, retention SWAT teams that are specifically focused on attacking churn. So we have these overlay team of people who are specifically focusing on attacking churn and also helping address upsell opportunities. We also have this one-to-many team that, again, is focused on driving customer interactions in a more automated fashion. Through this, we've been able to launch thousands, and I would say hundreds of thousands of plays to over 80% of our customer base. So we've been able to expand the amount of customers that we've been able to touch quite dramatically. So a little bit about kind of results here for you. We more than doubled our workflow adoption. We've dramatically increased our renewal rates. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what they are, but we've dramatically increased those by many points. But most importantly, we've expanded our customer outreach, which is really what I think is really most important out of all of this. We've been able to talk to more customers, ensure that our customers are being successful, and ensure that they were getting value. Now, with that, I want to hand it over to Guy to talk to you a little bit more.
Thank you, Roberto. Good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm really happy to talk to you this morning. Roberto just walked through a very exciting journey of BIM 360 in the past 2 years since he joined. And as you can see, very successful and very thoughtful ideas. So what I'm going to talk about is kind of just complement this a little bit from talking a little bit more about the inherent nature of those complexities and some thoughts on how to solve them with technology. So just if you don't know me, my name is Guy Nirpaz. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Totango. I'm also the author of a book called Farm Don't Hunt, which is the definitive guide for customer success. And I'm going to share with you some of the learning that I had in the past few years around customer success, but from a very practical point of view, so you can go back and implement this within your organizations. So I guess the first point that we are trying to articulate, and we all live in, is that the model that we operate in is a recurrent revenue model, right? So we have new customers that we implement, and then growing customers, and once a period we are trying to grow them further, and if we're successful, this loop continues, and if we're not successful at some point, they stop being our customers. And this is very, very important because we are trying to be proactive about this. We are trying to apply the right model for it. We're trying to apply accountability across the organization to support that. And to do so, we've introduced a concept called customer portfolio, where it's basically the ultimate level of segmentation, where you take your entire customer base and you look at that as a portfolio of new customers, growing customers, customers at risk, and customers in harvest. These are the customers that in commercial conversation at this point. And we break it down to individual departments and customer success managers. And everyone that owns a portfolio in the company is looking at their customer portfolio in the same way. And this portfolio has two main areas of focus. One is the engagement model, which is what are the things that we are doing in order to drive the outcome. As you can see, what we do with new customers and what we do with growing customers are the drivers, and the results are whether or not they are renewing. And we're building an engagement model. The engagement model, like implementation plans to onboard new customers, recurring programs like nurturing programs, event-based activities. For example, when we identify usage change or drop in performance to engage immediately. And of course also programs around saving and escalating customers. One of the points that we usually see is that companies go through an iterative model of building their engagement model. They usually start with obvious engagement elements like onboarding new customers or dealing with escalations, because these are driven by either the sales that has just been completed, that's the onboarding, or a customer threatening to cancel, and then you have to do something with that. And of course, retention programs, which are technical activities to actually renew the customer. But over time, there's a more mature model where we fill in the entire customer lifecycle with a set of programs and event-based activities to drive to have a complete cycle of engagement with the customers. And as Roberto said, this could be user-based engagement, where you engage directly with specific users. This could be account-based engagement, where you engage with buyers, decision makers, and main stakeholders. And in most cases, it should be both, right? So the complexity relies with the fact that an account now becomes a group of users who use a different set of products and the account itself. The other part that is critical to support that, and that the portfolio model helps us a lot, is to look at metrics at the stage level, right? What do we measure in onboarding, and what do we measure when a customer is growing, and what do we measure in escalation? And the reason why we want to measure those metrics are twofold. One is we want to see the impact of our engagement activities, right? How do we know that what we're doing, that the nurturing programs that we're running are actually yielding successful results? And Roberto mentioned that in the concept of adoption and perceived value that customers are getting. But if you look at, let me just find this tool here where I can just mark something. But if you look at this area, for example, which is where most of the time your customer is, how do we know that we're actually nurturing the customer in the right way? And we put set of metrics to measure the impact and the improvement on the cycle. And if those metrics are meaningful, then or going in the right direction, it's working. And if not, we need to make the necessary changes. For example, we look at metrics like business results, right? Is the product or the service actually delivering on the value? And in every product, business results could be different, but they could be quantified. They could be pushed from the product into the canonical model within your customer success platform, and could impact health and could impact the processes. For example, if I'm looking at a BIM 360 use case, and the business results could be the ability to actually deliver project milestone on time, right? If the customer is not able to deliver project milestone on time, it is very generic, and probably there's a lot of more subtleties into that. I can track it and reach out to the customer. Other metrics which are easy to understand are adoption, both at the user level and at the feature level, and of course utilization, which is how much of the capacity that actually being bought by the customer is actually being utilized. These are all metrics that you're trying to influence with the nurturing programs and measure the outcome of that at the same time. And the good news about this is that it's also something that allows you to have a leading indications into what's going to be the ultimate outcome. So if you look at this portfolio, you can see that it's organized from the top down. The drivers are, the activities that you do for customers at those stages, and if you do them in a good way, then you are maximizing the results. So that's kind of basically the high-level model of portfolio thinking, and as I mentioned, it's being run at the individual customer success manager level, at the group level, and at the company level. However, when we think about more mature organization, of course, our goal is not just to retain customers and prevent them from canceling. The reason why enterprise companies have multiple products and are putting all these efforts is obviously increase the footprint of the value and the relationship with the customer and focus on growth and upsell. And when we are in a position where we have multiple products, all of a sudden organizing a portfolio in a single product view becomes more complex, because if you think about it, a customer starts using a product or a suite of products and has set of onboarding activities and nurturing activities, and then they start using a new product, and this is something that happens at the company level, where the company contracts on product A and then B and then C, and also at the people level, right, where one person is being exposed to one product when they start use it, and then being exposed to another product when they start using it as well. And all of a sudden, we are trying to organize the thinking behind all those things. To add some more complexities into that, there are basically four different hierarchies, or think about this parent-child relationship within mature organizations, right? On the left-hand side, we have the customer organizational structure. Like what Roberto said, you have a general contractor with multiple projects, and this general contractor could be a subsidiary of another big company. In many cases, their relationship of mergers and acquisitions and so forth. The second point is your product hierarchy, which is what I just described, which is the number of products that you're trying to increase the footprint within the organization. So you may have multiple products from multiple dimensions. I've just spent some time yesterday with a customer. They have 69 different products which they sell to their clients, and the bigger the company becomes, the more successful it is, the more product lines they have, and you still want to apply the customer success model to it. There is the go-to-market hierarchy. Some companies sell direct, some companies sell through channels, and many companies sell direct and through channels into multiple markets. And of course, the organizational structure, implementation teams, success managers, accounts managers, overlay teams, success managers on a per product basis, and so forth. And so why am I showing all that? My goal is not to convince you that the world is complex. I think what we are basically describing is the complexities of real world business, and the bigger and more successful you become, there are more business opportunities that our business leaders are trying to exploit. The challenge becomes how do we organize all this information and apply a simple model into a customer success, a simple model of customer success organization that at the end of the day, the customer success teams are able to know which customer needs the priority, what is the action that needs to be delivered, what of these activities are one-to-one and are being done by people, and which activities are automated and being done by technology. And I guess at some point, many of us feel that we've exhausted all of our efforts to optimize the technologies and tools and the solutions that we've been trying to grow, because when we add the next product, all of a sudden the project is at the same size. And many companies at this point realize that the investment that they put at best puts them in the same position. And this is a good opportunity to take a step back and realize that once we plateau, then any further investment is not going to get us further. And similarly to what Roberto mentioned before, it's a good opportunity to take a step back and realize where those complexities lie and how do we think about solving it in a way that enables us to move forward and support the speed and the agility of the organization. You've heard Roberto saying in the beginning that they assume that they're going to segment their accounts based on their size, and then they realize that they need to segment the accounts based on use case. How do they actually use the product and specific individuals and cases. And besides being a great example, the reason why I'm pointing this out is that we don't know everything in advance. And one of the goals for us as a customer success operations team or organization is to try things out and see if they work, and if they do, continue doing them, and if they don't, change, and change quickly. And with a non-integrated thinking about customer success, we have to result into 1 or 2 big projects a year, which is basically one attempt to change a year, versus something which is more agile, which allows us to move much quicker. So just so we're clear, the first part of solving the problem is realizing that we are basically connecting 5 domains of information. And in every domain, there are its own subtleties and complexities. But we're connecting the world of customer products data, and we're connecting the words of customer engagement, the words of revenue, relationship, and teams. So when we say customer data, think about utilization, adoption, accounts, users, all the information from all these domains. And when we do this after the thought, then this is what basically inhibits us from moving forward. Just as a quick example, take a look at a relatively simple model that connects those things together, which is we are trying to sell multiple products to a global company. So as you see at the top, customer.co or customer co is the parent company, and it has one subsidiary in EMEA, another business unit in North America. The North America business unit has bought 3 products, while the EMEA product subsidiary bought just 1 product. If we think about what we are trying to do as a business, we are obviously trying to make sure that the North America business unit is successful in each and every one of those products, because they influence one another, and at the same time take the advantage or take the success of North America and deploy this in EMEA. And this is basically the global approach we're trying to solve for. However, in many cases, we don't know what is the performance of Cloud Connect in North America. We don't know what is the utilization of Cloud Run in North America. We don't know even what is Cloud Engage doing in EMEA. And if I'm the account manager in North America, it's very hard for me to kind of figure out and sell further into the organization. It's also very hard for me if I'm the customer success manager and the customer success team to know, what do I need to do in order to make Cloud Run more successful? So this, island of information and islands of information which are disconnected are the root of a lot of the complexities that we're dealing with. So in the past, I would say 2 years, and thankfully a lot to Roberto and his team, we've been working on trying to solve these complexities. We've realized that what account teams and customer success teams want is the information at their fingertip that is going to drive their actions in a way that is clearly visualized and clearly easy to navigate, so they can focus on what they do best, and this is adding value to customers, right? So we've taken a step back and realized that the approach of a single unified model that does not connect through all these dimensions that I mentioned before, products, organizational hierarchies, team hierarchies, and relationship, is just not going to cut it. So for that reason, we took a step back. We ran a huge project within our technology team to rethink the object model of Totango, and we've built hierarchy baked into this model. So as you can see on the right-hand side, you can see here that the object model supports the parent-child account. You can see, I don't know, maybe it's too small, but here at the top, we can see the entire hierarchy of one company, Cloud Roomba, with 3 subsidiaries or 4, Asia-Pac, Europe, Latin America, and 3 products. And when we go one level deeper, we can see the aggregation of those products. And one level deeper, we can see different metrics for different products, right? You can't measure all products in the same way because every product is a little bit different. A documents product is different than a construction planning product or a scheduling product. They have similarities like daily active users and license utilization, but they also have differences in the way in which people consume them, and these differences need to be reflected. So the approach has to be that you take the data points from the bottom and you roll them up in a way that allows the business, allows you guys to model the business, your business, the way it is. And when the business changes, when you buy a new company, when you roll up a new product, you are able to make those changes without the need to rebuild the project. So as you can see, these are some more examples. So now when we surface all this information at the right level, for example, the account manager cares more about what are the products that this account already has, which products they don't, and what is the opportunity to grow this account. At the same time, they also care about, but what is the level of value that this account has got, right? Is it poor, like in this case, or is it good? And this allows them to have the necessary conversation internally and externally with the client. At the same time, the customer success team is able to look at the low level of product adoption and drive the necessary engagement programs to turn this premium cloud product into green and take the necessary actions. So as I mentioned, we've been working on these types of Totango Enterprise, which mainly is a new enterprise-grade object model that allows you to reflect the complexities of your business within Totango. We've been working with that with big, complex organizations. We've heard about their product hierarchy complexities. We've heard about their organizational structure complexities and overlay responsibilities. We've heard about the fact that they're selling through the channel and direct. We've heard about the fact that they sell to all sorts of companies, individual organizations, and complex organizations as well. And we've built this directly into the Totango product. We've announced this on March at the Customer Success Summit, and this product is actually rolled out and is available as of May this year. So I encourage you to take a look and talk to us more if you find these types of problems at the heart of your customer success challenges. So our team is happy to walk you through that. We have all sorts of demo systems that allow you to actually see those elements in actions. And with that, I will turn it back to Christine to go to the Q&A section of the webinar.
Great. Thank you both, Roberto and Guy. We'd like to open it up to questions right now. So I just want to remind anyone that joined late, in the bottom left corner, you can see, you can submit your question, and while Roberto and Guy review the question tab, I'll go ahead and start with a couple. So this might be good for Guy because it was just what you presented, where they wanted to know if you could apply the hierarchy at the individual user level. And I'd like to see the difference in health by persona or individual. Can we do that?
Yes. Yes. So in order to solve this problem, we had to go and construct all the hierarchies from the users and onwards, and this is what is available today.
Great, thank you. And for Roberto, they wanted to know more about BIM if 360, if you sell to end users or if you sell to developers. And then if it is to developers, what sort of level of technical expertise do they have on the customer success team when they reach out to customers?
Yeah, interesting. So we just announced last week the Autodesk Forge platform, which is essentially a set of APIs, right, that developers can actually build into. So now we're working on, obviously, the level of expertise that they need to have to service that team. But most of our customers, this is an end solution, and our customer success team tends to have more of a construction-based background.
Great, that makes sense. Roberto, do you want to continue to talk more about adoption? Once I'm reading the question, once you have the indicators from Totango, how much is automated messaging versus conversational, and what has been the most effective increasing the adoption?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a mix of all, right? So we have a mix of automated and we have a mix of one-to-one. I would say the one-to-one is happening to about 30% of our customer base, right? That's as many people as we're touching right now effectively and proactively. The other ones are running through automated campaigns, which are training campaigns, onboarding campaigns, feature adoption campaigns, all these different types of campaigns. And those either run in product or they run through email marketing.
Great, thank you. And Guy, this is a question for you. When you talked about during the nurture stage, you mentioned usage-based campaigns. What does that exactly mean tactically? Can you elaborate?
Yes, definitely. Usage-based campaigns. Think about this email that you're getting from Facebook. You've been tagged by your two friends and how engaging it is. Facebook reports 99% open rate on this email and further engagement. Basically what it means is that if we want to introduce new functionality, if we want to introduce existing functionality for customers that are not using it, we want to segment those customers. We want to target the specific individuals that based on how they currently use the product or recently used the product, have a message which is very tailored to them, and also measure the success of that with the further engagement. As a quick example, if I'm a company, I have one product, or let's say one product with two major features, I can see the users that are not using the second features and specifically target them. And let's take example of ReadyTalk. I'm using ReadyTalk. I'm trying to send a campaign for everyone that has attended the webinar but has not asked a question, right? So I can specifically see who those are. And success would be to measure whether or not they've started asking questions in the next 14 days and so forth. And by integrating how people actually use at the individual user level, how they actually use the product, you can segment, target, and measure the success of those things. And a lot of very intelligent companies are doing this in order to drive further adoption, further training, further recommendation of how people should be using their product, whether it's additional products or functionality within existing products.
Great, thanks. So question for Roberto. Do you have different success plays by persona? Are personas consistent between all your accounts, or are they different? You want to elaborate?
Yeah, we absolutely do have different success plays by persona. In fact, that's how we kind of start out at the bottom layer. So if we look at a superintendent or a project engineer, and I'm using construction speak here, right, they actually do different workflows. So we actually push, hey, we know that you're a superintendent. We know that you should be doing these 5 different things, right? And we push them content and adoption plays based on that. Are the personas similar across our customers? The answer is yes and no. That we have some different customers who are maybe less construction focused, more like plant or other types of industries, so they may be different. But what we try and do is encompass as many personas as we can and as wide as we can. And anything that kind of falls through the crack, we start to deal with kind of iterating and tweaking.
Great, thanks. It'd be great to get both of your point of view on a question that just came in. It's regarding the slide summarizing the different complexities in the enterprise. And this is a good question. How should we think about Totango with respect, I'll just say, to other platforms such as Salesforce in driving customer success? Guy, do you want to first give your thoughts on that? And then Roberto, you can go next.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think the worlds of information that you need in order to run this model do not natively live in a CRM platform. Besides account and contact information, a significant portion of the meaningful information about your customer lives in your product, and you want to channel those streams into a system that can actually understand this and organize it. You have a lot of other engagement information that is not support related, like communication, either automated or not. And so that's one very important complexity that you want to integrate all the worlds of customer information that, we need to think about it in the mindset that this information should drive the action of the team, right? Secondly, where I think, classical CRMs do not lend themselves there, is the customer base is humming, it's moving, it's changing, users, people, products, they are constantly changing, and there are a limited set of resources within any customer success organization. So the challenge becomes priority and focus, and you're looking for a model, an engagement model that surfaces and alerts and creates the events so the customer success team can focus on what they need to be doing versus go through dashboards and reports and try to figure out what needs to be done on their own. And this is a very important model. So one is the complexity of the object model. Secondly, that the object model needs to monitor for meaningful health changes and surface up important events so the teams can actually focus on actually doing the work and engage with customers in an efficient and productive way versus the other way around. So that's what's my main conversation here. I would say that Salesforce still serves as an important component here that contains both information about customers. So you want to leverage this information, hierarchies that are already being defined in Salesforce from an account perspective, and reflect this in the model that you're building.
Great. Roberto, would you like to add anything to that question?
That was pretty thorough. So I don't have anything else. I don't have anything else to add. Guy and I agree on that one.
Great. Okay, then I'll throw you a different question. So someone would like to know what role do you think training plays in the product adoption, and do you have any metrics that show a positive correlation between training and improved adoption?
Ooh, yeah. Well, I am a big fan of training. We've pushed training dramatically within BIM 360, and I've always been a fan of training. We actually have a weekly report that shows us what people go on training versus how they reach success in our success plays. And every week we see great adoption, right? So we see positive results. We still haven't seen negative results. So super important and super valuable, and I'm a big proponent of training. I think the question is whether you have one-to-one training or one-to-many training and where you enable that training. And I think it's key to think training from a persona perspective instead of thinking it as, hey, people are going to go ahead and adopt this product. Let me show them how to click here, do that, do here. But make the training in the context of what that person is actually doing and the workflows they're trying to enable.
Great. Thanks. Okay, so question for you, Guy. You brought up the question, how do we know that the programs we're running are yielding successful results? So when trying to drive engagement on one-to-one, any suggestions on what to consider as we decide what makes a customer successful?
Yeah, I think it's a I think it's a very good question, as this is, I guess, one of the, there's a broader question here, which is how do we know that our customer success programs actually work, and it goes beyond just the individual CSMs, because when we as customer success leaders need to go back and report to management, on to the executive team about the initiatives and their outcome, usually the outcome is very late. It's lagging because renewal or upsell. There's a process that is taken into consideration. So I will answer this specifically. One-to-one engagement, I think there has to be some sort of a protocol between your company and the client about what does success look like, right? Why did they buy the product? It could be very generic conversation, could be very specific. What are they trying to accomplish in the next 3 months or in the next planning cycle, or what are the metrics that they're accountable for, and for that reason they've bought this product. And then other metrics of success, what is the expectation of adoption, what is the expectation of use case that is being delivered, and what is the overall satisfaction. The good news is that if a customer is getting the value from your product in a way, I think, Roberto, you call this perceived value versus realized value, right?
Realized value, yes.
So there has to be a conversation about what is a realized value, and make it very, very concrete. And some people have a very hard time with that because it's in many cases it's hard to turn thoughts into metrics. But I think you have to turn this into metrics. Realized value needs to be measured. Sometimes it's difficult, but making the effort to measure it and track against the number is something which will create the consistency and the predictability whether or not customers are getting that. And I mean, one of the engagement ideas that we've had in Totango for quite some time is a concept called Success Plays, which is an automated way to Success Beat, which is an automated way to communicate weekly or monthly to the customer against the success metrics that you're measuring and tracking against that. And this creates a great conversation. I think that you're succeeding, and the customer is saying, no, I don't think so. Now it's a basis for a conversation. Okay, so where's the gap? Now let's go solve it. Being able to communicate in a very formal way creates this opportunity to either brag about success or identify gaps, and which allows you to build a plan to resolve those issues.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think we have most of the questions answered. Before people, I know it's almost lunch, I just want to point out on the screen that we do have both Guy and Roberto's information displayed. You could reach out to both of them with any specific questions at gnirpaz@totango.com or roberto.jusino@autodesk.com. And when you do sign off, you'll be prompted with a survey. We would love to get your feedback on what you thought about the webinar, what you loved, what you didn't love. But we hope that you found this webinar really helpful and informative. Again, I want to thank both Guy and Roberto for joining us today. We look forward to sending you information about our next webinar later in July. Thank you. Take care.